Welcome. Welcome to Evolution Revolution. My name is Susan Allan, and I am thrilled to have you with us today. As many of you know, if you've watched the show before, the show is about breakthroughs in the human potential movement. And if you know me, because I've been on television in Santa Barbara now for 9 years, you know that I have dedicated my life to discovering new distinctions, new developments that really, really work. And so each time you watch our show, we have a unique guest who has discovered something that will allow you to live a life of peace, joy, health, success, and to make a bigger and bigger difference. So today I am really excited. This is the very first time that Don Jose Ruiz has been our guest, and many of you know him because he and his dad wrote the Fifth Agreement, and his father wrote the Fourth Agreement and Mastery of Love. So let me tell you all about him now. And welcome. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Susan. It's a pleasure and honor to be here with you.
So excited. This is going to be a great show. Okay, so as I said, the bestseller, The Four Agreements and the Mastery of Love, was written by Don Jose's dad, Don Miguel Ruiz. And, you know, many of us have read it and reread it. We quote it to everybody. We remember, keep your word, be impeccable with your word, all of that. It's like part of the language now, It's so important. And they wrote the Fifth Agreement together as a continuing exploration of the message of Toltec wisdom and the message that the Toltec elders came to deliver. And it started with Don Jose's grandmother, who was herself a healer, and his father, Don Miguel, who was both a physician, a medical doctor, as well as a shaman and a teacher, and now the next generation, which is so thrilling. And so the messages of light, the messages of the divine, the messages of wisdom, that's what we're going to be talking about today.
Beautiful.
Right, yes, we're thrilled. Okay, so the Fifth Agreement is about experiencing reality without words. However, you don't want us to sit here gazing at you for an hour, so we're going to do our very best to use words, and Don Jose will do his best to really express the message of the Fifth Agreement in language that you can really absorb, and that will give you an opportunity to change the way you think and the way you live your life. And so much of it has to do with unconditional love, which begins with unconditional love for the self. And I was speaking to Don Jose before the show started and telling him about the heart space system and that I teach communication, among other things. And we always start with bringing ourselves to peace before we communicate, so that people enjoy listening to us, and so that we really are going to make a difference and a contribution. So today's show is really about unconditional love for you, and how are you going to master that, and how are you going to share that love with the world, right? It's really, I'm sure that's what you live 24/7.
Oh, yes, at service.
Exactly. Okay, so question number one. Can you tell us first, we should start, tell us about your experience of growing up with your dad and this incredible Toltec wisdom.
Well, my father was just beautiful love. I remember when I was a kid having like a nightmare in the middle of the night, and father came into the room and said to us, "What's the matter, boys? What's the matter, boys?" Because, I started crying and my brother was taking care of me. So I just had a nightmare. So he puts his hand in our face and, everything's good. And then he goes and gets his guitar and starts playing us Beatles songs to sleep. And, but with the essence of what he gives, was the beautiful thing. Especially, he tells us, if I don't educate you, someone else is going to educate you. So he started, giving us the advice at an early age. Then later in the time, we rebel, we go with the friends, and we get into some situations, where his voice really shines like the sun, knowing, okay, my father loves me, he did this for the own good. And, this is not the place I'm supposed to be because he doesn't feel good.
You mean out making trouble with teenage boys, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Yes, we all know about those phases of our youth. Thank you. And I understand that so much of the book is about learning to be a messenger. And you were telling me that that really means angel. So please tell us more about that.
Yes, angel means messenger. So it's about giving the vibration. You know, you can create vibrations of negativity or positivity. But when we have control of our word, when we are responsible for our word, you know, when we start living impeccably, we are giving gratitude. Everywhere we speak, you know, speak us to be gratitude, to be alive. Now, how to express that in words, you know, what you feel to be grateful to be alive. So in your own way, you're giving a message, and that creates ripples of positivity, you know, that can spread. And, you know, it also works with negativity, but when you start doing this, you know, it doesn't feel good with your soul, with your being. So many of us start sharing negativity until it doesn't feel good anymore. When we speak now, the language of positivity is something that, you know, free us in our life, because in this world, there's two languages that are spoken: negativity, positivity. And the negative always creates problems and confliction. That's why this Toltec tradition has been accepted in 37 different languages. It's not a religion, it's just a way of life, you know, to respect the human culture.
And it's been accepted in 37 languages. Isn't that so thrilling? Because, you know, you and I, we live for the universal good, right? That means everything to us. Okay. Now I'm going to read a quote from the Fifth Agreement, one of the many that really touched me. To be aware means to open our eyes to see the truth. When we see the truth, we see everything just the way it is, not the way we believe it is, not the way we wish it to be. And I would love to hear more about that, and I know they would.
Well, sometimes, you know, we get programmed, we get trained, and we are like a horse that just gets those blinders and just sees directly until, you know, something inside of you wants to see something else. And then you begin to see first how you're living your life, and then you question it. Oh my God, is this the way I've been seeing it? You know, and it comes a point, you know, where we can use our imagination. Like if we're going to a movie, and then we're going to a movie about the story of my father, let's say. So I sit down and, you know, my father's watching his own movie, and then I see the character of Jose in his movie. I said, that's how my father sees me, but that's not really how I am. Then I go to the movie theater of my mother, and my mother sees me in a different point of view, but, you know, this is not how I am. So we can see how many people see one another. But when we start seeing ourselves the way we live life, that completely changes everything. Because if you don't like the way you're living, you can change it. And when you have that awareness, that consciousness, you know what you're here for in life, you know, to take care of you. Because you know what makes you happy, what makes you suffer. And how you know this information, because you're you. So when you're ready to see, you will see, you know, and your heart learns how to listen more than our mind.
Thank you so much. And you know, in Santa Barbara, a lot of people live in multi-generational families. You know, a lot of people come here because their parents are here and their parents need help. So the adult child moves from some other place to live in Santa Barbara with the parent. And so you just made me realize, you know, how fascinating it is how people see us, particularly when we've perhaps been away from them for a long time. They may still hold on to this belief about who we used to be as if it's who we still are, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And the beautiful thing is there's nothing to defend. We can just let them have the belief. There's nothing to debate, because, you know, all of us have the right to create our art how we want to. And with respect, you know, we can live, co-create, and, you know, have a good time together. And I love, you know, how the cycle comes, you know, like saying, first our parents take care of us, and now coming to take care of the parents. You know, it's a full cycle that's about gratitude and about enjoying the golden time that we have.
Yes, thank you. And I know another point you make in the book is the distinction between truth and lies. And it's a little different from, I think, the way you normally think about truth and lies. So tell us more, please.
Yes, one of the beautiful things that I remember when I had this conflict a few years ago, I picked up a book by Christopher Reeves, you know, who used to play Superman. He was riding a horse and got paralyzed, and, you know, he went through all this emotion, you know, like he didn't want to live, he hated life, until something shifted in him, that he began seeing people with the same illness that he had, and he began helping them, and he completely changed his life. Well, in that book, Nothing is Impossible, there's a quote by Abraham Lincoln. It says, I only got one religion, and one religion only. If I do good, I feel good. If I do bad, I feel bad. So when we're lying, does it feel good? No, it feels bad, because you cannot remember who you lied to. That creates stress, and that stress, you know, can create illnesses. But when you are truthful and you live truth, you know, you have communication, you know, you can have an open heart wherever you go. And that's how your life will gonna be, an open heart.
And we know when they're lying anyway. And we know when, it's not just your mother who has eyes in the back of her head. It's like we all know when you're lying, and because we know when we're lying, right? That's the thing that's the funniest of all, because you can always hear. It's like either people's eyes are going back and forth. Like if you don't know the answer to something, you're going to go like that. Okay, fine. You say, I don't know. But if you give an answer and then you're doing this, it's highly suspicious, right?
It's like a poker game.
Exactly. Life is a poker game.
But there's no bet or anything, you just watch the game.
That's perfect. Now, I loved what you said about humans being addicted to suffering, because I work with addiction. And I work with people who actually get clean, they get sober, they decide they want to. It's a very interesting process that I've created. So tell us, this is so important. In Santa Barbara, if you knew how many people, the percentage of people we have in this one city who are addicts, you would be stunned. And I'm, God willing, it all starts to go away, quickly. So tell us about addiction to suffering.
Well, the addiction of suffering comes from an early age. We start drinking poison, we start getting hurt until we begin hurting somebody else, and then we start numbing ourselves. And when this drug gets introduced, or any kind of addiction, that can make you numb, it's like paralyzing. It's like dying, But at the same time, you're alive, but you're dead. And you begin seeing this world, in a negative way, because everything that we do is just hurting ourselves. We're hurting what people say to us to hurt ourselves, what happened, And, by experience of being an addict in the past, too, I would know that I was just trying to hurt myself until I lost myself. And then losing myself, and I had to get out of that world by myself. And I had to make that decision for the love of my life, which is me. After my body got abused, I said, you know what? That person who abused me really didn't do it. I did it to myself. And I make a choice for that to happen. So in that moment, it's something that we have an understanding. We have to forgive. First of all, forgive everybody who hurt us. And then forgive ourselves for hurting ourselves with everybody's opinions and making it our own pain. Because, whatever happened to us like 17 years ago is not really happening now. We continue living it because of that addiction to suffering. When something happens very interesting, when we are in a table, normally we talk to certain people, and our story changes about suffering, And when I was a kid, I remember going to my first spiritual ceremonies with adults, and the only one who can speak is the one who had like a feather stick with eagle feathers. So they passed it along, the adults, and everybody was saying stories of suffering. And everybody passed it on, and they were competing who had the most suffering story. At the time that stick got to me, I have no suffering story at all to tell, but this was the seed that was planted in me. In order to be an adult, you have to have suffering. So a little kid went to look for suffering until I lost myself in that suffering. And then, it had to be something bad, in my case was the death of my best friend when I was like 16 years old. He went out of a window, and and I was going to be with him in that weekend, go to Mexico, Rosarito, to the beach where we're going to go. But my father picked me up that weekend and said, "You're coming with me." No, I want to go with my friend. No, you're coming with me. So when I returned, I got that news, and I said, that could have been me.
Yes.
My father just saved my life again.
Yes.
In this moment, I confessed to him what I was living, and that was the beginning of my transformation, because I still fell after that. But it was the beginning of, unlearning, because this is what the Toltec tradition is all about. It's nothing to learn, it's to unlearn. And what we want to unlearn, is being addicted to suffering.
Yes.
And finally make peace, because when we make peace, we can forgive everything. We can forgive what's going to happen in 1 year, 5 years. Of course, one of my friends said to me, Jose, I cannot forgive what's going to happen 1 year, 5 years from now, because I don't know what I'm forgiving. But I responded, you know what you're forgiving? We're forgiving the sickness of humanity, that addiction to suffering.
Yes.
If we take that personal, we're going to contaminate ourselves again and pass it on. When we begin to understand when someone screams at us or is negative at us, it's because they're really saying, I'm in pain. But at the same time, you respect your body, You don't allow nobody to disrespect you, but at the same time, you don't take them personally, and you can deliver, a message. So the addiction of suffering, is programmed ever since we were
Yes.
kids. And this is what we talk about in
Yes.
the Toltec tradition.
Yes.
We call it the dream of the planet. It's ready to educate us.
Yes.
So one of the beautiful things about this, to end this is, to start with yourself. Like I said to my father once, how can I repay you for everything you have taught me and shared with me? And he with a big smile. It's easy, my son. Help me to change the world. I go, hold on, Papa, I don't want that responsibility. He says, don't be silly, son. Help me to change the world inside your mind. When you have a problem, resolve it. Have that respect for yourself. Think impeccably. And it's the best way you can say thank you to me. And, it's about gratitude. It's like the episode of Oprah Winfrey. He had Robert Downey Jr. and she asked him, was it difficult to leave that world of addiction? He said, yes, absolutely. She said, how? Why you say that you went to different rehab? But yes, I did that for other people. I didn't do it for myself. And when I did it for myself, that was it. And this is the important thing when we do it ourselves, is when we forgive ourselves, because the suffering comes to us, Even when we get the awareness, it still comes to us. But the difference is how we use it. We no longer will use it against us, how we are programmed to. This time we just shift the point of view. We shift our consciousness and really see the deepest, And one thing that I saw in Arizona, it was a beautiful, beautiful picture. It was this beautiful man, an older man, standing on a billboard that says, "Don't grow up, it's a trap." Because after we're done, working with ourselves, we come to that innocence back again. And this is what I love about the Peruvian, the Inca. They say we are children from the sun,
Yes.
and we never grow up.
Yes. Now, I must ask you, this next quote is so extraordinary. Be skeptical, but learn to listen and then make your choices. And what you said that was so unique to me, I mean, of course, many of us in spiritual traditions have been told again and again, don't trust this one, you just think about it. Learn to think, learn to make those distinctions, analyze, be responsible for your own choices, all that. But you said something that was very unique in my listening. Because if you're skeptical, you're also going to be skeptical about your own thoughts. So as those negative thoughts come and hit you in the face, if you have the habit of skepticism, you will automatically have the same response to these negative thoughts. Mm-hmm. So tell us more about that.
It is, one of my best friends when I finished this book with Janet Mills and my father, I gave it to him. I said, look at this fifth agreement. We just make this. I said, what's the fifth agreement? Be skeptical, but learn to listen. Jose, be skeptical sounds very negative. And I said, yeah, it's negative if you think negative. But just imagine you think positive and you have negative thoughts. No one loves me, you don't believe that. I can't change, you don't believe that. It's so difficult to change, don't believe that. It's difficult because we don't want to change and we make it complicated to not change. But when you make that decision, you will change. And we break our automatic programming. If we're programmed, automatically to hurt people, to lie, to gossip, it's an automatic. But when you catch yourself, it's because you're beginning to filter what comes out of your mouth. You begin seeing the root of spirituality, where dreams are born. And the dreams are born in the words that we say. So one beautiful thing it is, if you're delivering a message of love, and then something in the mind says, you not can love, you break that paradigm and you go through it and you can do it. Because if doubt got us into suffering, then doubt can get us back into heaven. And it is, again, the Toltec tradition to unlearn what takes your inspiration away, because the word Toltec means artist. We're creating art all the time. And if we're not inspired, what's going to happen? We're going to not create art anymore, get locked into a room, and then depression's going to come into place. And then again, we're back into the addiction of suffering. That's why being skeptical of the old program is very important. And this is what in the Toltec tradition we call dropping the human form. It's not like really drop the human form, we die. No, we drop the ego, the personality I, and we become now at service to this body. Because this body, is the body of life, body of God, however
Yes.
you want to name it, is the source.
Yes.
One day I had a beautiful dream that I died and I was in lotus position, sitting in a cloud, and then also the big boss comes in, and he asked me, it's not your time to be here yet. I just show you this beauty, but I'm sending you back where you come from. But when you wake up, you will find something different. You will wake up with my body. So how you treat yourself is how you're treating me. And everybody else has my body too. So how you treat others is how you're treating me. And that opens another perception in consciousness. So in this moment, you know, if you start thinking negative, you can just be skeptical to it, and positivity will reign in your garden.
Thank you. Now, the next level of the be skeptical, because then you can not only be skeptical of, you know, other people and whatever they say that may not resonate with you may not be valuable, taking it to the next level, be skeptical with your own negative thoughts so that you can create this art that is your life. Now, the next level, and again, this book has quotes, I'm telling you. You just stick your finger in any page, and there are quotes. It's just a joy. Creating the show was such an easy thing. All I had to do was, you know, go, and oh, okay. And there was a great point and a great quote. So the quote is, don't believe me, don't believe anybody else, but especially don't believe yourself. And the self is the little, you know, don't believe the small s, the egoic mind, right? Okay, so speak to us about that. So not even believing yourself.
Yes, I remember one day I was climbing this highest mountain, and I was so tired, but I was speaking some words to my friend, you know, some positive words. And by the time we got to the top of the mountain, my friend asked me, you know, there's a zip line, a big zip line.
Oh, great.
And he asked me, you want to do it? And I felt fear, and I said, no, I don't want to do it because I'm afraid, you know, I will not believe that. And I will do it, you know, even though I feel it, I will not believe that.
Right.
And before I jumped from the zip line, I turned to my bro, and I said, I'm scared, man, I'm scared, but I did it anyways.
Yay.
Because I wasn't believing myself, but I felt the emotion. I felt the butterflies. But, you know, in one point, I really realized that's how we talk to the divine. Not in words, but feeling our body, feeling our emotion, because our body is asking us to take the action. And this is where the mind is very powerful, because when we start having power in our words, in our thinking, and we can totally break that pattern. And my gosh, what you can accomplish is infinite. That's why you have a dream, follow through. And if you have all those doubts, you know, making you want to get to the other way, you know, don't believe them. Believe in your dream. You know, we only live once, so let's make history before we forget ourselves, and, you know, support the love of our life. That is this body, these experiences. And that's the beautiful thing, experiences.
I'm not kidding.
We never stop learning.
Now, here's one for the books. My father and my mother and my grandparents taught me this, you know, to have a dream, stick with your dream. It's all about making a difference in the world. It's all about contributing to others. My father became a surgeon, and he was blind in one eye. It is considered to be impossible. And his dream was not, he was a doctor for many years, but he always wanted to be a surgeon. And at 51, he became a surgeon. And he had been blind in one eye since he was 8. He was kicked by a horse. And didn't stop him. I mean, as a child, I thought, okay, that's kind of normal. As an adult, I told somebody, and they went, no. And I have his eyeglasses to prove it. You know, I can look through them, and one is plate glass, you know, nothing. So to me, what is your dream is a lot more exciting than how you're going to get there, because having the dream, holding the dream, sticking with the dream, thinking outside the box, asking God's help, all that makes it so thrilling. Right?
Yes, it's the pure will.
Yes,
it's the pure will.
It's a muscle. We have to exercise the muscle, right?
You know, my father was being in medicine, and one day he said, you know, I want to really study more the human mind, and I have to stop being medical doctor. And you know all the opinions that he had. You studied this hard. What are you going to do with your life? You have a family. What are you going to do? He says, you know, this is what I feel. I have this dream, and this is what I have to do. So he left medicine. So if he would have never done that, he will never write the 4 agreements. He will never write Mastery of Love. He will never share his wisdom. So that's a big, you know, things when our parents, you know, we support, you know, people that we admire. They pull through because it was so beautiful. And one beautiful thing, you know, that when he came back having a heart transplant, they asked my father, it's okay we study your heart, because we want to know how you lasted 8 years traveling all over the place with a 16% of your heart capacity. And he responded, don't waste your time, doctors. It's not in the heart. It's in the will.
That's right.
My body supported me all my life. Now it's my will to support my body. And when I hear that, it's like, oh my God, our dreams can come true. Our dreams can come true if we don't believe that those lies, those opinions, and we just have that, that action. That's what it is, the fourth agreement, doing our best.
That's right. And, my audience knows this because I did not breathe normally until I was about 57 years old. I had allergies from birth, I had asthma, and it wasn't until I met Howard Wills, who I was telling you about, and I don't take any medication anymore, and my breathing is like it never ever was in my life. I can take deep breaths. And when I think back to how did I even get out of bed in the morning, but it's the power of the will. Now, you speak about, in the book, of course, following one's heart, but undomestication. What, I'm sure that's a new phrase for everybody, it was for me. So please tell us more about that.
Yes, like in the Toltec tradition, there's nothing to learn but unlearn. And that's how we learn our domestication. And when, if we have a domestication of, negativity, screams, and things that hurt us, we come to a point in our life, when we forgive that, but we start unprogramming ourselves from that kind of way of life. And how do we do this? By programming ourselves with things that we love to do. It's like letting the dream go completely, because if it's not gone completely, it will resurrect in your new dream. And this is what happens in relationships too. Some people blame the other people and say it was her, or it was him. They change to another relationship, and the thing same happens.
Always.
And then it happens again, and then someone says, why is this happening to me always? So you have to look into yourself. And when you look into yourself, you can have the ability to unprogram yourself from the things that you don't want in your life anymore. Things that take inspiration out of your life and bring back what inspires you. So the unprogramming is to let go of the things that don't serve you anymore and start serving the love of your life. And, take them to a beautiful place. Romancing your soul is one of the beautiful things. So this is what this is all about, to take that action to support this beautiful, beautiful intent.
Fabulous, because we don't want any more people taking the talking stick to complain about their miserable life, right?
Exactly.
We don't want that contest, the talking stick contest.
Yes, exactly. And by learning, I will never show that to a child because I went through, and that's what we do, In generations, we go through many things, and we're filtering. And this world, is advancing very much. People say it would not be advancing, but it is. Just let's think about 1,000 years ago, in the Inquisition, knowing what we know now. We unprogram ourselves from that way of life. And here we are now, getting closer to a more peaceful way of living.
Now, thank you. Tell us, what does silent knowledge mean?
Silent knowledge, I love silent knowledge, is when you learn to listen. You learn to listen to the world, to nature, to everything, but most important, to your nature. You begin listening to your emotions. And, from this point on, it's just pure wisdom. Silence is pure wisdom, because you find a place of tranquility, the inspiration, and then often you know things that you do not know. Like how many times you start doing an activity and a person says, how do you know this? I don't know, I just started doing it. It's because you are connected to it. And my God, when the artist is expressing itself, it just like creates the most beautiful art. At the same time, it cannot create the beautiful art, but from that point, we totally wake up.
Thank you. Now, in our busy schedules, even making a difference is busy work sometimes, all the running around of speeches and writing and talking and all that. So truly listening, is there something that you could tell everyone that would really help or facilitate the ability to truly listen, not to the noise and the chatter of other people, but to the divine and to your own soul?
Yes. One day I had not a good experience. I was in pain, and I could hear my body in pain, can feel it in pain. And I began hearing it from a different point of view with nourishment, that I could totally understand how the wolf sings, You just let it in, and you just do what the body does. That's silent knowledge, You get out of the way and you let the body do what it's going to do. But more beautiful way, when you let that happen, you get a lot of consciousness, because what silent knowledge brings us is peace of mind. And when you have peace of mind, anytime negativity comes into that peace of mind, you can identify it quickly. It's like the winds bring some weeds that you don't want in your garden. You notice them right away, you take them out right away, because if you don't take them out right away, what happens? They grow, and it's going to be more work to do. So the silent knowledge in the within is when you really are honest with your emotions. When you're feeling a certain way, you just speak a certain way. And how beautiful it is, to live that way with an open heart book. But learning to listen to the world, you get inspired to create. And we create beauty.
Thank you. And there's a term, the dream of the first attention. Mm-hmm. Now, what's interesting, you lived in India and I lived in India, so we share this common understanding that this is all Maya, this is all a dream anyway. Mm-hmm. Certainly the horrible stuff is definitely a dream. Mm-hmm. The good things, you've had a near-death experience from what you described, and I had a near-death experience, so the beauty seems not so much a dream to me. The beauty seems more real. Mm-hmm. But can you explain the dream of the first attention?
Yes, the first attention is our sleeping programming life. Everybody, doing what they're doing, we just not even aware of our actions, of our ripples that we create. We're just living life like normally, we have suffering at heaven, but we have no consciousness about it until we get to the second attention. The second attention is when we're realizing, oh my God, I did this, I'm doing this, I'm living this way, I don't want to live this way anymore. And then you begin having a place in heaven, a place in hell, a place of happiness, a place of suffering. You're between those two until you make the decision. And when you make that decision, you jump into the third attention, which is the dream of heaven, the dream of the angels, the dream of service. Because this is so beautiful when I imagine looking at the creator, the boss, and the mother looking at us. They love all their children all the same, no matter who did what, who did the most negative action. Everything served the planet to do what it does, But when we look from those points of view, how can we judge other people? Everything is just doing this point of view. Everything is just living that way. And from that third attention, we can do real goodness, especially the people who are in power, to change this world. If they live in that third attention, they're going to make a big ripple for the next 100 years to come, because that action is about gratitude. And this is the way that we totally, give thank you to life.
And the more gratitude we feel, the easier everything gets. Mm-hmm. So even if you're not really excited and inspired to feel gratitude, I always encourage people, find a little something to feel gratitude about, because things will truly get easier.
Yes, and when you don't feel gratitude, you'll be skeptical about it. It's like how many times, we feel like we have a loss of relationship and we just punish ourselves, instead of saying, thank you for us having that experience for all those years, having a beautiful relationship. Or if someone passes away, we use that death to hurt ourselves instead of being grateful that that person was alive, And hurting ourselves with their death or heartbreak, is disrespectful to that place of our time. And from this point, we can totally respect by honoring. And I'm not saying you don't feel it. Of course you feel it, you nurture it. But this is where silent knowledge comes into place. You begin nurturing yourself. You begin healing yourself. Like my grandma says, the true healer is the one that can heal itself from his own lies, from his own wounds. And when you do that, you have an act of power, because you're really living from that third attention. And nothing that goes into your way, people doing you harm and things like that, you just forgive it right away, because you don't want to get lost in that world anymore, because you understand it. This is what service it is, service to you. Like I said earlier, I know the meaning of my life, and it's to take care of Jose, because I know how Jose is happy, and I know how Jose is suffering. And how do I know this? Is because I am Jose. That's living in the third attention, taking the responsibility. And when we take our responsibility, it can become a social responsibility. And this is where we make the change, because we can inspire one another. And this is what it's all about. This is why Toltec means artist, because we're inspiring one another. And especially when we go for it, when people go for freedom, like Dr. Martin Luther King, like Chavez and, Lincoln, Kennedy's, they went for making a change,
Gandhi.
Gandhi is my favorite, Gandhi.
Me too.
Gandhi, I love the story about Gandhi, Someone comes to Gandhi, a mother, and says, my child is diabetic, he cannot eat chocolates. Would you please tell him he cannot eat chocolates? He says, okay, come in a month. Okay, and a month come in, the kid comes in and he says, okay, don't eat chocolates, he told the kid. And then the mother says, why you have to wait a whole month to tell him that?
Oh.
It's because I had to do it first before I tell the kid. That's Gandhi.
So wonderful. So wonderful. The Academy Awards were last night, and I was at the Academy Awards the year that Gandhi won, and I had been in India with Attenborough's group, and I was at the world premiere of Gandhi, and I was with Sir Richard Attenborough and my friend who was the PR guy to see the first full cut of the movie for the very first time. Sir Richard Attenborough had never seen it, and I was in the screening room with him and with my friend Ed Menken, who was doing worldwide publicity, and then I got to go to the opening.
Oh, wow.
And when I went to the opening, I was sitting next to an Indian man who I didn't know, and I was in tears. And at the intermission, this man was about 6'4", and he looked at me and he said, "What are you crying about?" Well, that put me on the spot. So I said, I'm crying from the joy that there was a human being. In the same way that Einstein's quote, we will scarce believe that one such as him ever walked the face of the earth. And then this man told me his family had been the family behind Gandhi, provided him with the ashram land. And this man, who was maybe my age that I'm now, when this happened in 1980, he had been a boy at Gandhi's feet his whole life.
Oh.
His whole life. Just so amazing that this is real. I mean, when we look at our problems, when we look at our challenges, when we look at our goals, as you said, the force of will to say, no, this is not okay, and I'm alive, and I can do something about it. And then more of us. And Gandhi had no real success for 25 years in South Africa. He had no real success. Little things, little small things. But when they brought him to India, and when he got off the boat, you saw the scene in the movie, there were now thousands and thousands and thousands of people because he went into an environment that was ready. And so for so many of us, we feel hopeless, we feel despair. Either the timing's off, or we haven't figured out how to get around a particular problem. But we keep at it, as you obviously have, as your dad has, as I have, and it starts to be easier. It starts to happen, right?
Yes.
The flow.
Yes, and when you speak your truth like Gandhi did, many people were feeling like him.
Yes.
And they were so, excited, and passionate that, this man had a voice.
Yes.
And you know what he did? He made peace. He made peace without weapons. And just imagine taking the torch inside of our everyday life, standing up, and believing in our rights, it's the most unselfish things that humanity has ever done because it's thinking about the future. And this is what the beautiful thing it is. The children, they learn not what we tell them. They learn how we live our life.
Yes.
So it's important to walk the talk, to be impeccable with words, because this is how the world is going to change and free itself from that negative way of living.
And I met Coretta Scott King at the world premiere. So that was, when worlds collide, it was like it was just all there. I wish I could have taken you in my pocket.
Oh, I wish too, but I was there.
Exactly.
I feel it now.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's so thrilling, so thrilling. Now, here's a quote. So, from your book again, of course, from your book. Humans are the only animals on earth who punish themselves 1,000 times or more for the same mistake, and who punish everybody else 1,000 times or more for the same mistake. How can we talk about injustice in the rest of the world when there is no justice in the world inside our own head?
Exactly.
Tell us more. That's so brilliant.
Yes, we start creating ripples. We start feeding this dream of the planet. But the moment that we start taking that responsibility, once again, you have the control where you're going to go with this information. And one of the beautiful things it is to really understand where you're coming from, to really understand what the message it is that you're going to give, to really understand what fruit you're giving. And when you have power to that word, it becomes a power object for me. The words that I speak is a power object because I know they put with seeds and with a vibration. When you begin sharing that, it's so beautiful. So we humans punish ourselves 1,000 times for the same mistake because of that addiction to suffering.
Yes.
And I think it's more because I did more than 1,000 times for the same mistake, but it changes how it's according playing. So when we treat our pet better than we treat ourselves, what does that tell us, And we treat everybody, but we cannot give what we don't have. The moment we give that to ourselves, it completely, we can give it to others. That's why we stop punishing ourselves for the same mistake again and again and again, and we really forgive it, really understand it, and we don't want to hurt this body anymore. It completely changes. You just imagine you have consciousness. You're punishing yourself 1,000 times for the same mistake. And you know consciously and aware that you're living in God's body. It's not going to feel good. Then you're going to feel late. Next day, you're going to feel like that judgmental, that shame that you did that to God. And you will do it again, get forgiven, do it again, It's time to break that cycle. When 2012 came in, the end of the Mayan calendar, one of my friends said to me, Jose, what's that mean to you? And I said, do you really want to know my meaning? Because I don't read a lot of anthropology of the past. I just speak from my own heart. You still want to know my answer? He says, yes. I said, my answer is the end of superstition. It's the end, that we're going to give power away to the outside. We can start being the love of our life. We begin taking that action in ourselves that in 200 years or less, hopefully less, children from the 7th grade will study history. And they will look at the beginning of the 21st century thinking, how barbaric were they? They thought the love of their life was outside. Yes. Everyone knows that it's in the within, and we will look like, way like the past. So, the future, they say, the future is, that we live in the future, the future is is the truth. No, it's right now. When we say it's in the future, then we say, it's not now, it's going to be another day. I'll do it tomorrow later. No, it's right now, the future. It's right now, and today we can make the complete change in our life, in whatever little thing there is, in our schools, in our workplace, in our homes especially. It's where it begins, driving in your car, when you take things personally, catch yourself. Because in the Toltec tradition, and it was based on the angel training, messenger training, where we learn to train ourselves. Because in one point I said, okay, how do I work with these 4 agreements? What do I do next with these 4 agreements? And I said, it's time to be skeptical and learn to listen. It's time to train myself with my own awareness, with my own passion. It's time to give the love of my life romance and pleasure of what it wants to live by every moment, every second. So if there's negativity coming this way, the old memories of how we used to talk that language, we can identify it right away and we say no, but we just don't believe it. We won't believe it because we know we're just like, saying to a puppy, saying no. It's just a word, that's coming out. But the important thing is to have that respect, to respect to the love of your life. And your love of your life doesn't want to be punished 1,000 times for one mistake. Could you imagine you're married to somebody and you punish them for one time? It's going to walk away from you, you're going to get the divorce papers right away, And most of it is abuse. We abuse one another. And this is the whole thing, and we say it's okay, we justify it, but it's not okay. It's a sickness. And there's no medicine to heal this outside. It's just the willpower. It's just a decision. And we all get comfortable in the discomfort, but that discomfort won't last long. Anyone who does yoga knows that. They get into uncomfortable positions and they breathe to it, and weeks later, because they practice it, they master it. Yes.
Thank you. And there's something very interesting. I noticed today as I was getting ready to meet you, I'm pretty good at slowing down time. I've noticed the skill that I have. But it seems to me that maybe you can even stop time. Is this something you've ever noticed about yourself?
Yes, sometimes I believe there's no time.
Exactly.
There's no time.
Exactly.
Yeah, time puts us in a hurry, but it's, important how the world works, But really, there is no time like in our dreams. There's no time in our dreams.
Right.
From one moment to the other, we're in another place.
Right.
And this is the beautiful thing about life, It's not about age. It's not about anything. It's about being present. And when the candle's still burning, you want to change your life, you can still change it. the candle's still lit. And that's the beautiful thing about it, you know. That's why I love, you know, to say, don't grow up, it's a trap. Even my father explains this, you know, when he was a kid, he used to play doctor. And he explains how...
Oh, he did.
Yeah.
Before he became one, he played one.
Yes. And,
wow.
and he used to say when he played doctor, he had this serious look in his face and started playing, you know. Like, and then all of a sudden, he became a doctor, and he noticed one day, he looked in the mirror and said, oh my God.
All these wrinkles.
Yes, I became what I was pretending.
Wow. Don't we all, right? Don't we all? But this is quite a unique thing that I see that in this conversation we're having, this interview we're doing, that something quite miraculous is happening, which is that time is moving very, very slowly, as it does in different altered states. So thank you so much.
Oh,
this
thank you.
is so thrilling, really thrilling. But since we're still with you and not in this ecstatic state without you, let's ask an interesting question. So you write about authenticity, which you call integrity of the self in the book. Expound about that so they really understand what you mean by integrity. It's a little bit different.
Yes, integrity for me is supporting myself completely, supporting the love of my life completely. Giving it integrity, it is beginning to feel like I don't want to live in negativity anymore. I don't want to participate in gossip, in hatred, in jealousy, and envy, because that can be created like a poison inside of you, and you're going to be wearing a mask, and, you know, you're pretending to yourself, you know. But the moment that you have integrity and you are just the way you are, you open yourself the way you are and you don't judge yourself. And if you don't judge yourself, no one else can judge you, and the judgments will be eliminated from your point of view. And then you can see others people judging you, and you just know that they're judging themselves when they judge you. So with integrity, you stop, you know, judging yourself. You stop disrespecting yourself, and you begin really loving yourself. You know, for me, marriage is really you marry yourself. And when you marry yourself, you find that integrity. Because no one has the right to disrespect you, to scream at you. Like you don't have the right to scream at anybody, disrespect you. And when you stop living that way, you know, like going in a relationship, oh, honey, I will never do this again. Okay, you make up again, and then 2 days later,
Boom!
it happens again. You know, it's because it starts working in eggshells conditions, and, you know, you're not living in integrity. And integrity would be, you know, if that starts happening, you say, with communication, I don't like this. I respect myself. Thank you. Nothing personal. But, you know, this body comes first. And they will say, well, you don't really love me. If you really love me, you have to take my poison. Just, nope. Thank you. That's your opinion of manipulation. But, you know, in this point, you say yourself the truth. And, you know, being authentic is so freeing. You know, that's freeing. Pretending, man, that puts you in like the man in the iron mask, you know.
Yes.
It's like my friend Freddie Rabel, you know, he says with his heart open, you have to let the music out of you. You have to let it out. You have to let that energy out of you, because if it doesn't, it just feels like you're locked inside a refrigerator. I was just with him this weekend, and man, it was inspiring. But you know, it's like that. We have to let that authenticity come on, and that makes us happy. That makes the artist happy. And it's so beautiful, you know, to have that. And man, this is what we're here for.
Yes. Now, you know that when people learn how to really ask for what they want from their heart, then you know, guys, you know that you don't have to be that harsh person. You don't have to end relationships with people that you had truly hoped you would be able to continue to know for a long time. But it's the ability to learn how to speak from your heart in a really peaceful and loving way, and not giving in. That's not what we're talking about, nor demanding, so neither capitulating nor coercing, but really speaking from your heart and making requests. And when people learn how to do that, it's amazing how all the misery and the suffering can just stop forever, and they can stay together in whatever way they want to stay together. You know, not that you're obligated to be in a happy marriage just because that's one of the things I do. You can choose for yourself. So now, are there short phrases to explain first attention, second attention, third attention, so that we're really clear about this?
Yes, first attention is that you're just living life with no awareness of what's around you, just automatically.
So unconscious.
Unconscious.
So first attention is really not paying attention.
Yes, it's just
Okay.
everyday life. Then
Okay.
something happens. You begin happening, I don't like this dream. You wake up into the second attention. The second attention is like waking up in a nightmare. Says, what am I doing here? I don't belong here now. I know I don't want to live this way. And then you start having little conflict between, truth and lies. Because that's what it is, it's truth and lies. It's not good and evil, it's just truth and lies. And then when you see your own truth, and you begin respecting every lie that you believe to hurt yourself, it no longer will affect you, because that will come with respect when you jump into the third attention. The third attention is to really respect yourself and respect life. And it's the point of view of the angel. And the angel is the messenger that's really to service. So when we give a message, we send a vibration to it. It can be a negative vibration or it can be a positive vibration, but it is done. And we're like a battery. It runs out of negativity and positivity. It's like my greatest teacher, my friend the rattlesnake. When the rattlesnakes are little, they cannot control their poison. But as they grow older, they control their poison. So in the first attention, we're not aware that we have poison. Second attention, we know that we're poisonous. And third attention, we control our poison.
Ah, that is so clear. Wow. Control and also transform.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Transforming negativity into positivity.
Right, okay.
It's like the saying of Quetzalcoatl. It's a beautiful story. It's about this snake that lived in a hole in Teotihuacan, Mexico, in the pyramids in Mexico. And he got inside the hole because he was afraid of life. He was more comfortable hiding until Mother Nature made it rain, and that hole became a puddle. The snake had to go out, and for the first time he began seeing life. He was forced to be in the place that he feared. So he saw beautiful birds, the quetzal birds, flying all around. He said, I want to fly like those quetzal birds. And then another snake came in and says, you can never fly like those birds. You are a snake. You will always be a snake, and this is what you are. In that moment, he said, I can touch the sun. I can fly touch the sun. So he felt himself from the within. He went inside his silent knowledge and felt heaven inside of him. He has no limitations. He put his imagination, and with that he flew to the sun, touched the sun, and when he came out of the sun, he was Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent. And as he was coming back down to Teotihuacan, some angels stopped him and says, okay, Quetzalcoatl, it's an honor. You have come to us. Where would you like your pyramid to be made? In the palace of the truth? In the palace of heaven? In the palace of the mother? Or in the palace of the father? Where would you like it to be? Where your pyramid would you like to be? And Quetzalcoatl responded, I want it in the place of hell. And then you say, why? And Quetzalcoatl responded, it's because heaven doesn't need heaven. Who needs heaven is hell. And wherever I go, I will take heaven with me. And that is another point of the third attention, is when you are at service. It's the same as the Buddha. It's its service. Yes. And as the other different spiritual, leaders or ways of being, everything is the truth. Of course, many things get corrupted, because you have to put attention, like the game of the sitting on the chair, when you say something whispered to somebody's ear and they pass it, by the end it's going to be totally different.
Yes.
And there's been a lot of corruption, selfishness that has come, but it's still there. And when you look at it, you can find the purity, and it's in every way of life, in every school, in every mystery school, in every religion, every way of life. And we can take it now to our everyday life, to the art. Everything around us is inspiring us to see the beauty within us, because everything's a mirror.
Now, I want to be sure we have time for you to answer this really important question, and just so extraordinary to me. Your dad had said that love is one of the biggest demons in hell.
Yeah.
And I think you have to explain that to our audience.
Yes, well, I tell you a personal story from the family. It was one time...
And I have to warn you that we only have about a minute and a half
of
the show. So
time went quickly.
I know. Now it started to move quickly.
Yes.
Before, it was just suddenly slow.
Yeah, you have to have more time. So, well, my father said, love is the biggest demon in hell. And my brother says, how can you say this? You who write all these beautiful words and messages of love, how can you say this? Well, you will learn it one day. 1 month later, my brother had a heartbreak. He got broken up, and he was hurting, and he came to my dad and said, yes, Dad, now I understand what you were saying. Love is the biggest demon in hell because we use love against ourselves. And that is the biggest demon in hell because we're corrupting love.
Thank you. Now, I know that you've gone from this extraordinary book with your dad, and that you've written The Universe of Now and also Ripples of Wisdom. So do you want to tell us just a tidbit so that and first of all, are either of them out yet?
Well, Ripples of Wisdom is a book that's out now.
Okay.
It's made with quotes from Facebook that our fans from Facebook asked us to make a book out of it, so
Wow.
we did. Me and my fiancée, Tammy Hutman.
How
We did
great.
this, and then The Universe of Now is a website. It's an online magazine where it's not only Toltec, but it's different ways of life, from eating, from the kids of now, kids putting their point of view. So it's getting the message of positivity in different variations in the health, eating, sporting, art, photography. It's what the Toltec are about, art in a modern world. So this is what this. You can check us out at theuniverseofnow.com.
And it's really interactive, what you're saying. That obviously you're on Facebook, as we all are these days, but you're now, the next mission that you have is taking it out to the community, taking out to the world, not just about a book that they then are passively reading. So these two new projects are very much interactive.
Yes, it's like expanding the Toltec from just being a civilization from 1,000 years in Mexico. No, the Toltecs are worldwide. We're all artists. It's an art of positivity getting together to create a beautiful space for the future. And I'm very excited to say that I'm gonna be, in a few months, next week we're gonna put in the oven my next book, and it's about my life. It's how I got to this awareness. So, I want to share with everybody that I just didn't memorize my father's work, but I would like you to.
What's it called?
It's called My Good Friend the Rattlesnake.
Aha! Thank you so much. That is just really, really fabulous. And I want everybody to be sure that you do look at Don Jose's website, look at all the events he has. He's got a number of events coming up in the next couple of months. And whenever you watch this show, I'm sure there will be a number of wonderful events. But more importantly, I would say that you want to really absorb this book. It is extraordinary. And if you haven't read the 4 Agreements, if you haven't read his dad's book, The 4 Agreements and The Mastery of Love, you absolutely want to read them. Everybody that I know in Santa Barbara can quote them to me. So if you're watching this and you're somewhere else, you want to get with it. You really want to get with the program. And I just can't thank you enough. It's been thrilling to have you.
Thank you, Susan, and thank you for your message.